I'm going to show you everything you need to know to succeed as a marksmanship hunter in Cataclysm Classic. If you are going to be Alliance, what race should you pick? Well, I would advise Worgen for 2 reasons. The main one being Viciousness, adding a 1% crit chance on top of our crit already. This is a really big DPS increase and is very, very beneficial. The other thing, which is more of a utility ability we get, is Dark Flight, increasing our movement speed for 40% over 10 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown, which can be a really good get out of jail free card if you are standing in the fire or need to get from A to B on a long boss fight. For Horde, I would advise that you go for Troll for the Berserker ability. You can see this as a mini Bloodlust or Heroism that you have in your racials. There is also Beast Slaying, adding 5% damage to beasts, but apart from Shanox and Beftalak in the Firelands, there isn't really much use for this at the end game. For the stat priority, of course, first and foremost, we are going to want Agility. This is going to give us range attack power and also some crit chance along with it. After that, we are going to want to hit the hit cap, and that is going to be 8%. If you've chosen to go Draenei, you will need less than everyone else due to the racial giving you 1% hit. Meaning Draenei need 841 hit rating to reach the cap, whereas every other class, or race should I say, will need 961, meaning you need 120 less if you are a Draenei. After that, we're going to go for crit, then haste, then mastery. We have a few talents that specifically are helping our pet, making crit one of the best secondary stats we can get. And haste is actually going to reduce the cast time of some of our spells like aim shot and steady shot. For example, with steady shot, we're going to actually be using it twice at a time, and getting the cast time down on this, because the buff it gives is quite short anyway, is really going to help. And lastly, Mastery. It's not actually a terrible stat for us, we just need it less than all of our other stats. This is called Wild Quiver on a Marksmanship Hunter. It's a 30% chance for your ranged attacks to also instantly fire an additional ranged shot. Each point of Mastery is going to increase that chance by 2.1%. Because it is a chance on our attacks to proc, it does mean that haste is more important, actually impacting our Mastery. What I mean by that is, imagine that with our haste, we're going to be putting out quicker and quicker amounts of attacks. That means that we're going to be getting a higher and higher chance over time to proc our Mastery. And therefore, haste actually helps our Mastery, even though Mastery itself isn't the best stat for us. Hopefully that makes sense, what I'm trying to say there. For the talent build we're taking, it's going to be pretty standard, and this is the one I would recommend. There are a few small changes you can do, however. I've put 1 point into here, Rapid Killing. After killing an opponent that yields experience to honor, your next aim shot, steady shot, or cobra shot does additional damage. If, however, you are on a really long fight that doesn't need this, then I would take it out and, for instance, put it into Silencing Shot, meaning we're going to gain an interrupt. If you don't need the interrupt, then leave the build how it is. We're putting 3 out of 3 into efficiency, reducing the cost of some of our core abilities, and 2 out of 2 in Go for the Throat, where our ranged auto attacks are actually going to crit and then cause those crits for our pet to generate more focus. After that, we've got Sick'em going down onto the next line. When you critically hit with your arcane shot, aimed shot or explosive shot, you reduce the cost of your pet's next basic attack by 100% for 12 seconds. This will be happening passively, of course, so you don't need to worry about it. We've then got a really interesting one, Improved Steady Shot. When you're steady shot twice in a row, your ranged attack speed will be increased by 15% for 8 seconds. So, steady shot is this ability here that you can see is on my action bars quite a lot. A steady shot causing 110% of weapon damage plus X amount generates 9 focus. Focus is our main resource as a hunter that we'll be generating and spending. And you can see when we use it twice in a row, we're actually going to gain this buff up here, Improved Steady Shot, increasing our ranged attack speed. We want to keep this up at all times when possible, and it is going to be up for 8 seconds, meaning when it gets to about 4 seconds, you want to do 2 steady shots again to refresh that when it ends. We've got 2 out of 2 into Careful Aim, increasing the critical strike chance of your steady shot, cobra shot, and aim shot by 60% on targets above 90% health, meaning we will be doing higher damage at the start of every fight. On the next row, we're only putting it into piercing shots, of course, unless we're taking silencing shot. Your critical, aimed, steady, and chimera shots cause the target to bleed for 30% of the damage dealt, adding an extra dot or damage over time on our target. Then we've got Termination. Your Steady Shot and Cobra Shot abilities grant an additional 6 focus when dealt on targets at or below 25% health. So we're going to be doing extra damage at 90% health or higher, and also below 25% health. When we get to 20% health, we're actually going to be able to use our Kill Shot, which is another damaging ability. Bombardment is also a talent we're taking. When you critically hit with multi-shot, your focus cost of multi-shot is reduced by 50% for 5 seconds. This is only going to be used in AoE. Unfortunately, there really just isn't any other points that we can put this into. The ones we're not taking are things like Concussive Barrage. Your successful Chimera shots and multi-shots have a chance to daze the target. True Shot Aura, increasing melee attack power by 20% and range attack power by 10% of party and raid members within 100 yards. We're generally going to be going for Aspect of the Hawk, however, which is a lot better for us, increasing ranged attack power by a massive amount. And also Resistance is Futile, another one that we just don't really need. So even if we're not taking multi-shot for AoE, we are still going to go with Bombardment. We've got Master Marksman here. You've got a 60% chance when you Steady Shot to gain the Master Marksman effect, and that's going to last 30 seconds. After reaching 5 stacks, your next aimed shot is going to have its cast time and focus cost reduced by 100%. Basically, that is going to light up your aim shot. You can see here, it's quite a slow building shot where you're aiming really carefully. When it lights up, that's going to be at 5 stacks of Master Marksman, and it will light up like a proc, and you're going to use it at that point whenever it does. Readiness is a cooldown I'm going to talk through shortly. Mark for Death, your Arcane Shot and Chimera Shot have a 100% chance to automatically apply the Mark for Death effect. So what does that do? It's basically the same as your Hunter's Mark, but is undispellable, does not grant unerring sight of the target, and lasts for 15 seconds. So your Hunter's Mark is this one here. You can see it puts a big red arrow above the target, and it's actually going to increase the ranged attack power of all attackers against that target. And the Hunter will be able to track it at all times, and therefore they can't stealth against you. We've got 2 out of 2 into Rapid Repercussion. You gain 12 focus every 3 seconds when you're under the effects of rapid fire. Another cooldown I'll be talking about shortly. And you gain 50 focus when you gain Rapid Killing. Post Haste reduces the cooldown on your rapid fire cooldown, and your movement speed is increased by 30% after you use Disengage. That is a utility here that basically you leap backwards, and that talent means that you're going to get an increased movement speed after using it. And that can be a fantastic utility ability that's going to get you out of all sorts of trouble. And lastly, Chimera Shot. We've talked about this one a lot in the talents above. This is a ability that is actually going to renew the duration of our Serpent Sting on the target and do some damage, healing us in the process. Serpent Sting then is this ability here that puts a dot or damage over time on our target, and we can keep it up at all times by refreshing it with Chimera Shot. For the last few talents, we're going to put them into Beast Mastery and Survival. 3 out of 3 into Pathing, increasing ranged haste by 3%. 2 out of 3 into Bestial Discipline, increasing the focus region of our pets. 3 out of 3 into One with Nature, increasing the attack power of our Aspect of the Hawk, and it's increasing the benefits of our other aspects. More on those shortly as well. Lastly, 2 out of 3 into Frenzy, because we've run out of talent points. Your pet gains 4% attack speed after attacking with a basic attack, and that is going to stack up to 5 times. Speaking of pets, there are a few different ones that you can take. Now, because we're not a Beast Mastery hunter, we can't use exotic pets. And generally, there are only going to be a few different pets we're taking. And that's because Ferocity, which is the spec of your pet, if you will, is the best one to take. This is the talent tree for your pet that I personally would recommend if you are going for Ferocity. The reason we want to go with Ferocity is because of Call of the Wild. Your pet roars, increasing your pet's and your melee and range attack power by 10% on a 20-second duration with a 5-minute cooldown. And it is a massive extra DPS cooldown that we have at our disposal. You can take Cunning pets, etc., but they don't have this cooldown, meaning they're not as good. And all the different pets you can take will have lots of different buffs and abilities, but generally if you're in a raid environment with, say, shamans or priests or warriors and all the buffs that they bring, etc., you are generally going to have all of the buffs covered. I would check out the Petopia website if you're not sure which pet to take, apart from, of course, taking Ferocity for the Call of the Wild cooldown. Basically, Call of the Wild is the big cooldown you want from Ferocity, and all of the other little buffs and bits and bobs your pets do are just not as important, and you can really take whatever you like depending on the situation, unless you are absolutely min-maxing. But it's so in-depth, I just don't think it's worth covering in this video, apart from this cooldown we're talking about here. For the glyphs we're going to take, we can either use Arcane Shot or the Chimera Shot glyph. If you do take Chimera Shot, it's reducing the cooldown on it. We are going to be using that spell on cooldown, or Arcane Shot deals 12% more damage. That is another focus dump. We can use our Arcane Shot to just dump out loads of focus if we're not using our aimed shot. You can use one of the two, it's up to you. We're also going to go with the Glyph of Steady Shot, increasing the damage of our Steady Shot by 10%, and Glyph of Rapid Fire, increasing the haste that we gain from that cooldown by 10%. On our major glyphs, we're going for Trap Launcher, reducing the focus cost of it. We have a few different traps. I'm going to talk about some of those in this rotation. And the Trap Launcher means that we can launch them to wherever we like. This is going to reduce the focus cost of that ability. We can also decrease the cooldown of Disengage by 5 seconds. The one I showed you earlier, where we're going to get an increased movement speed and jump back. And also Mend Pet, increasing how much we can mend our pet by 60%. Because of course, if our pet does die, we are going to be doing less DPS. And therefore Mend Pet, only having to use it once and quite rapidly, is going to be important in long boss fights. If our pet is taking damage, that is. For the minor ones, it's less important. I like Revive Pet, where you get no damage pushback from it at all, meaning you can revive your pet much more efficiently if you're in trouble. Feign Death, reducing the cooldown on it. That is an ability where you can literally play dead and lose all threat. And it will even take you out of combat. And for the aspect of the pack, increasing the range of that ability if you do use it. Speaking on then the aspects we have, I would always recommend you go into Aspect of the Hawk. It massively improves your attack power. We have a few different aspects here, and you can have one available or active at all time. Glyph of the Fox means you can shoot some of your abilities while moving. This could be useful in some fights where a lot of mobility is required. And then Aspect of the Cheetah and the Pack are increasing movement speed. If your raid has wiped, this can help you get back to the fight much quicker. And Aspect of the Wild increases everyone's nature resistance. If that's really needed in a fight over the damage you're going to get from Aspect of the Hawk, your raid leader may instruct you to use this one. But generally, Aspect of the Hawk is going to come out on top. But how does this all come together into the actual rotation we'll be using? It's a fairly straightforward rotation. First things first, put your Hunter's Mark up on your target before you go into battle, making sure that we're increasing the range attack power of you and everyone else. Then we're going to put on our Serpent Sting, and we're going to keep this up on our target at all times. But remember, when you go into combat, you're only going to use it once because it's going to get refreshed by your Chimera Shot. The next thing after putting on our Serpent Sting is using Steady Shot. And remember, we're going to use this twice in a row to get the buff Improved Steady Shot, increasing your range attack speed. Then using it twice more when it's about to fall off to try and keep this buff up. After that, we're going to use our Chimera Shot on cooldown. Remember, that is refreshing our Serpent Sting. And then after that, as you can see here, we have our aim shot completely free. We're going to use that because it's instant and free whenever it lights up like that. And if you've forgotten, because that's fine, we've been talking through a lot in this video, that's because of the Master Marksman talent. You've got a 60% chance when you're Steady Shot to gain the Master Marksman effect lasting 30 seconds. When that stacks up to 5 times, you're going to get a free and instant aimed shot. And it's at this point in the rotation where we're going to use that when we can. After that, we're going to use our Kill Shot whenever we can. That is only available at 20% health and lower, and it's a really deadly attack. After that, if we're out of focus, we're going to use our Steady Shot to generate any focus that we need. Of course, we're going to be using it twice every now and then anyway to get up the Improved Steady Shot buff. And after this, you're just going to use your Aim Shot or Arcane Shot to dump any excess focus. And that is pretty much it for the single target rotation. So put your Hunter's Mark on, put up Serpent Sting, use your 2 Steady Shots to get the Improved Steady Shot buff, and then use your Chimera Shot on cooldown. Use any instant aimed shots you get from Master Marksman when it procs, use your Kill Shot on cooldown, use your Steady Shot to generate any focus that you need, and then dump any excess focus with your aimed shot, or if you wish, your Arcane Shot. For the AoE rotation, we're going to be doing a similar rotation, again using our Steady Shot twice to get up that faster buff, and then using our multi-shot on our targets. This is going to be doing damage to all targets within 8 yards of your target, and this is going to be our focus dump and most important ability after Steady Shot for AoE. After that, using any instant aimed shots again, using Kill Shot on cooldown, and again using Steady Shot if you need to generate focus to use your multi-shot. And that's it for the AoE rotation. It's all pretty straightforward. For the cooldowns, we only really have a few. We do have the Call of the Wild, remember, on your pet bar, and we are going to use the Call of the Wild buff with our Rapid Fire. Increases range attack speed by 50% for 15 seconds. This is a massive, massive cooldown. What we then have, as you can see, it's on a 3-minute cooldown, is Readiness. When I use use Readiness on a 3-minute cooldown, it's going to instantly reset the cooldown on Rapid Fire. As soon as you use Rapid Fire, use Readiness, so that that's then on cooldown and ticking down to use again. When your Rapid Fire falls off, then immediately use it again. So with Readiness, you basically get 2 uses of Rapid Fire, and these will then come off cooldown at a similar time to each other. You want to use your Call of the Wild pet buff from Ferocity whenever you are using your Rapid Fire when applicable. And remember, that is this cooldown here if you are using a Ferocity pet, which I do recommend. Increasing your ranged attack power by 10% and also for your pet, whereas your Rapid Fire is increasing the range speed. So that's the speed paired with the attack power, meaning super wooper duper DPS. Lastly, we've got some utility spells over here. Wing Clip will actually slow down your enemy, but you must use it in melee range. Misdirection is where you can basically put all of your threat onto a different ally, say the tank. So you can use this when you go into battle, redirecting your threat onto the tank so that you can go in blasting. Disengage, we've spoken about. Tranquilizing Shot will remove an enrage and magic affecting your enemy. Scatter Shot will actually disorient your enemies. Camouflage is really good. Basically, you cannot be attacked by or targeted by range attacks, etc. in camouflage, and it will reduce the distance the enemies will actually detect you at, so you can slither past undetected. Freezing Trap will incapacitate the enemy, and you can either place it or use the Trap Launcher ability to place it wherever you need, and it does share a cooldown with Ice Trap, which is a slowing trap that you can use. Ice Trap or Freezing Trap, will incapacitate the target, whereas Ice Trap will actually slow your enemies. And that's really the main abilities that you need to know about as a marksmanship hunter. For the professions and gems, etc., there's a lot to know. Above my head, you will see Head and Shoulders. Above my Head and Shoulders is a Head and Shoulders enchant. And this is from the Ramkehen in Uldum reputation and also Pharazane in Deepholm. These, as you can see, are really, really useful enchants. And you are going to need to get up these reputations to get these. Looking at the gems you're going to want, the Delicate Inferno Ruby is for your red slot, adding 40 agility. The Adept Ember Topaz is for your yellow slots, adding agility and mastery. And the Glinting Demon's Eye adds hit rating and agility. Of course, if you've already hit your hit cap, you won't need to use this and use a different one instead. The Agile Shadow Spirit Diamond is fantastic, adding agility and increased critical effect. And that's it for your gems on the meta slot. For the professions, I personally advise that you take Enchanting and Alchemy. Every different profession does add something unique. These are just my personal opinions. The Enchant Ring of Agility, you can put on both rings, adding 80 agility in total. A Mixology will increase your effect of your flask by 80 agility as well. Landslide is the main weapon enchant you will need, increasing attack power by 1,000 for 12 seconds occasionally. And on the consumables, like I was saying about the flask, this is without the buff of Mixology. It's going to add 300 agility for an hour with the Flask of the Four Winds. Potion of the Tol'vir should be used with your cooldowns, increasing your agility by a whopping 1,200 for 25 seconds. Use this with your Call of the Wild and Rapid Fire cooldowns. Skewered Eel is the food, adding agility and stamina. And Mythical Healing Potion is the healing potion we'll be using as hunters. And that is everything you could need to know to play MM Hunter in Cataclysm Classic. Hopefully this was useful for you. If you do have any questions, feel free to join my Discord, where we have a really friendly community that are there to help, including myself, of course. And if you would like more one-on-one or priority support, please do sign up to my Patreon, where you can get a ton of extra benefits like written guides, LVUI profiles, and a VIP Discord channel where you can ask me directly any questions you may have about the specs, etc. And I always check that as a priority. It does really, really help support the channel as well. I only do this in my evenings outside my 9 to 5. And a lot of people do use ad blocks these days, especially in gaming, where we don't make much money anyway at my size on YouTube. So if you are looking for extras or would just like to support the channel, Patreon is the best way to do that, and there is a link in the description. Thank you very much in advance if that is something you would consider doing. If not, of course, just leaving a like and subscribing really, really helps support the channel as well. And if you are looking for other specs, whether it is for Hunter or another class, you can check out this playlist here where I've done them all for you in Cataclysm Classic.